What's that do?
Romance in coming-of-age stories is kind of essential. It's unavoidable, but so easy to get wrong and do the cringe cliché tropes. And Buffy features a lot of romance. But it's an inherent part of the show because it's an inherent part of life, especially the time frame that Buffy is about. That period is probably the most difficult to understand love. When you're going through a lot of these issues for the first time, it's maybe at its most difficult to navigate. Buffy and Angel provide the primary romance in the first 3 seasons before he leaves to go and do his own show. A dark and mysterious fella who's a bit older, living with that additional baggage. They meet in season 1 and their romance very much begins there, but it's the primary focus of season 2. Buffy has been forced into the Slayer life and is doing that every night, losing more of the average life because she's focusing so much on her own demons, and Angel is a key role in her life at this point. He's kind of the idealism that Buffy dreams of, a man that understands her real demons. He's willing to endure so much pain for her and look after her. They have incredibly strong chemistry and we see them grow across season 1 and the first half of season 2. The tension continues to build about will they, won't they? It's pretty standard romantic storytelling. There's a very clear attraction to an almost irresistible extent, and that becomes more apparent as we reach the midpoint of season 2. They finally start to give in and build more of a relationship, bonding over their lives, how Buffy is realizing that maybe her future is just fated to be the Slayer. No ability to follow her dreams, no ability to be the person she wants to be, but that she's laid out to have all these duties that she didn't want. Whereas Angel is permanently battling with his own darkness and due to his nature as a vampire, also longing for that normal life. Both of them really resonate with that. But from their first episode, fate is against them. I mean, a vampire falling for a vampire slayer. It doesn't get more poetic than that. On one of their first official dates, they're ice skating and they just can't seem to get a break. There are constantly things getting in the way. And we see as things seemingly push them apart, they truly long for each other. They are unwilling to be far apart from each other. Overpowering feelings of love and lust. We reach a point where Angel is kind of forced to leave in order to protect Buffy and Sunnydale. Spike and Drusilla had been gathering dismembered body parts of a demon that they need to all combine to bring him back to life, and so Angel insists that he must leave on a boat to make sure that these pieces are never put together and to make sure they stay far apart. That doesn't really go to plan, so the two of them then go back to Angel's, drenched and cold and isolated from the rest of the world. Angel is worried for Buffy after them being involved in another fight, wanting to make sure she's okay as they sit close. And Buffy finally gives in to her desires, allowing herself to feel the love without shame and to be with Angel physically. Likewise, from his perspective, wanting to love her and be with her.
I love you. I try not to, but I can't stop. Buffy, maybe we shouldn't.
Just kiss me.
He allows the night to go on, their temptations win. But that's when the title of this episode, Surprise, really comes into play. Angel wakes in the night, seemingly in severe pain, begging for something to stop. As he's approached by a woman on the street worried about him, he jumps up from the ground with lighter feet and a more confident tone of voice before turning and killing the woman. Angel is the ultimate representation of good and evil. Whereas everyone has a mixed bag of both and we have to deal with that. Season 6 particularly is focused on that kind of topic, but Angel can only be one or the other. With his soul, a truly good being with the complex guilt and so striving for redemption every day. The redemption that he craves but ultimately knows he'll probably never get. Or, without his soul, Angelus, the embodiment of all evil, reaping joy out of the pain he inflicts on others. And what is it that initiates this change? What removed Angel's soul to bring out Angelus? His love for Buffy. Them spending that night together, giving in to both of their desires. It's come with unforeseen consequences. The second half of season 2 is then an emotional roller coaster, completely turning the romance they'd spent a while building up on its head. This is perhaps my favourite romance ever put to screen. It's just so inherently raw and true. It develops even after this arc is over in such fascinating ways, as they are forced to move onward in life. It's a forbidden dream. If they are to indulge in their love and passion, the inner demons win. Now, I don't take any of this to be the show saying that sex is bad. It would be very easy to come across that way, but I don't think it does at all. I think, if anything, the show is very pro-sex. I think this being the thing that triggers Angelus is the showcase of how intimidating that first time with someone can be. It's never as smooth as you depict in your head, especially if the other person has had the experience. That is a part of the anxiety. What if they judge how you are or reveal they've been using you the entire time? What if they completely change and become a different person after you've opened yourself up at your most vulnerable? All of those anxieties and inner demons come to fruition.
Was I not good?
You were great. Really. I thought you were a pro.
I can't stress how incredible of a plot twist it was. I had no idea it was coming the first time I went through the show. The back half of this season forces Buffy to confront all of it. At the end of Innocence, we see Buffy dealing with her own guilt, thinking she's the reason that this unrelenting evil demon has surfaced. When conversating with Giles, he responds in a really powerful way, reassuring her of herself and giving her guidance of how to deal with these new, unexpected obstacles.
If it's guilt you're looking for, Buffy, I'm not your man. All you will get from me is my support and my respect.
She's left in despair, knowing that they have to stop Angelus as he progressively becomes more and more violent, but also know the man in there, Angel, is the man that she loves, and despite Angelus's best efforts, she knows that their mentalities are different. They are different minds. Episodes in between Surprise and the finale see Buffy coming to terms with this scary new reality of this new guy that has completely changed. Even in lesser episodes like I Only Have Eyes for You forces the two of them to repeat the actions of a student and a teacher that were together years ago, drawing attention to the nature of Buffy and Angel's relationship with how much older he is. The episode Passion is one of the best examples of all of this. Angelus spends the runtime stalking Buffy as she sleeps, leaving an envelope with his drawing of her so she knows. All the while we have Angel giving a voiceover about how passion can drive us. This is very important to this episode and these characters, because right now Angelus purely has the passion for causing pain, particularly on Buffy, because of what she represents to him. The attack on Jenny in the school is one of the best scenes in the season for me. The fact that we see her attempting to make amends for keeping her and her family ties to Angel secret, and this episode is the first time we see her attempts maybe showing promise, she finds herself translating a text that would allow them to recreate the spell and return Angel's soul. But Angel finds her just in time, destroying the computer and snapping Jenny's neck. Something about seeing how much he revels in the pain and her inevitable fate through the high school makes it so much more haunting. Even just the simple fact that he doesn't bite her here. He just snaps her neck. It's purely for his own enjoyment and torment above everything else. And then his theatrics continue with how he stages her body in Giles' home in a tragic reveal as he walks up the stairs to see his lover covered in roses, dead. The ending of that episode sees Giles attempt to take on Angel himself, overcome with revenge and fury, Buffy saving him at the last minute, both crying whilst Buffy begs him not to leave her. She can't do this alone, and none of them can. This also brings into fruition the talk between Buffy and her mother. A dreaded conversation for every parent and child, but it's done so well. It's equally funny and realistic, and really builds on their relationship. But despite the fact that they've restricted Angel's access to their homes and stuff, they've recast spells so he can't enter without permission again, he still serves as an incredible threat throughout the next few episodes, even in the background. Becoming Part 1 and 2 are in contention for my favourite series finale of Buffy. Spike being so jealous and egotistical that he teams up with the Slayer to take out Angel, and Buffy not only having to deal with Angel attempting to unleash hell on Earth, but also now having the actual law against her as she's framed for murder. Finding the spell for soul restoration brings a brief sense of hope, but also imminent danger in the way that they execute it. Right after they rediscover Jenny's findings, we see the actual moment Angelus received his soul. The conflict rising between the group about whether to kill or save Angel is very interesting. Each member of the Scoobies have a pretty different opinion, but ultimately they decide that if they can, they'll try and restore his soul. Per usual though, Angelus turns out to be one step ahead, staging an ambush preventing Willow from casting the spell, leaving the gang with severe injuries and Kendra dead. Something that I want to talk about in an upcoming video is the arc that Willow finds herself later on in the series. Giles tells her how starting magic may open up a door to her that she struggles to close, and we get a very early sign of that addiction that will come into play with how she is willing to risk herself all over again in the second part of the finale whilst bedbound in hospital. And I love that that's a little seed that would blossom into a harrowing, tragic storyline. This show is pretty unmatched when it comes to long-term character arcs and storytelling. Bit of a side note to say that I love how much of a bloke Spike is. I never get bored of James Masters on screen. Thank God he became a mainstay.
We like to talk big. Vampires do. It's just tough guy talk.
Spike wants to conspire against Angel because he wants Drew back, and he's just a jealous son of a bitch.
Earth may be sucked into hell, and you want my help because your girlfriend's a big hoe?
Buffy reluctantly accepts his help, and they go back to her place, where she is forced to explain that she's the Slayer, and this is such an incredible allegory for having to come out to a parent.
I mean, have you tried not being a Slayer?
Hits so damn hard. I mean, I know people who have just had parents say such similar things of, have you tried not being gay? It's so well done and so upsetting. I mean, it starts off as comedic, but as the episode goes on and as their conversation ends, it becomes so tragic. She's just unable to accept it, and it's heartbreaking, to the point where when Buffy goes to leave, Joyce tells her that she can't come back. All of these emotions are piling on because she's also now expelled from Sunnydale, but she's got a job to do, so she goes to save Giles and finally face Angel. Xander shows up and doesn't tell Buffy that Willow is attempting the spell again, which is so scummy, but also so typically Xander. He is the worst character in this show, I think. I don't totally hate him, but just, I do at times. One of the biggest things is that he doesn't always face consequences for the way he behaves. And I mean, that makes sense when you realise that Xander is the Joss Whedon self-insert. So the final battle commences, and it's a lot of fun. The action is really great, even though there are times where you can just see that it's not the actors and they are very clearly stunt doubles, but it never totally ruins it for me. Such a brilliant climax, forcing Buffy to believe in herself, to trust herself after everything is stacked against her, and as she stands against the passion for evil. I think it's a great kind of message that ultimately you end up having to face some of the hardest demons alone, and especially because this is such a personal matter.
That's everything, huh? No weapons, no friends, no hope. Take all that away, and what's left?
Me.
And somewhat surprisingly, Willow succeeds in casting the spell. She returns Angel's soul, so they win. Right? Except it's too late. The portal to hell has opened, and the only way it can be closed is the same way that they opened it, with Angel's blood. And so with that, she is forced to drive the sword through his chest. To save the world, she has to give up hers. The track Close Your Eyes is an incredible one, followed with the needle drop of Full of Grace. Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz are outstanding. His confusion and relief to see his love again, her realization that he's back, but that she still has to kill him for the wider world, is so heartbreaking. After the denial from her mother, being expelled from everything, she thought there was nothing left to lose, and she was wrong. After all of that, she feels unable to remain in Sunnydale. She really has lost everything. To me, this story arc is so powerful. It's insanely emotional and feels so huge in such a personal way. At this point, the characters are all 16 years old, a time where you really do start to see more of the real world and its harshness and have to make huge sacrifices.
It never stops. Do you think I chose to be like this? Do you have any idea how lonely it is?
Some of which can be overwhelming, and season 3 would kind of continue that in looking at what's the difference between running away from your issues or taking time to deal with them. The final outcome of Buffy and Angel's relationship is the tragedy of how it can never be. It's a dream. They play on this fact in Angel's episode I Will Remember You, which is another gut-wrenching episode of television. Buffy and Angel is a tale of destiny that is doomed to fail. The complexities of love from person to person and across universe. From the get-go, this was very apparent with the fact that they had any attraction to each other, despite being a vampire and a slayer. How could they ever possibly be in love? They are willing to endure endless amounts of pain for each other, but maybe that's not always the best thing. So it could never truly be.